a lot of experience. I'm looking forward to this panel. If you could briefly introduce yourselves, one or two sentences, starting off with Rune here, who is from Scaled Agile. So let's say our kind of honored guest of Scaled Agile in the panel. And if you could, 2 words about yourself, and we could go round table.
Sure. I'll do 2 sentences if that's okay. 2 words is kind of a little bit.
Sure.
So my name is Rune. I work for Scaled Agile. I've been working there for just about 2 years now. I'm an SPCT and strategic advisor, which practically means that as I'm covering the EMEA region, Poland included, I'm giving advice and help to any of our partners or our customers on anything that's to do with SAFe. So that's me.
Right. We have also representatives from C Prime, RadTech. Guess, could you please go for it?
Sure. Hello, I'm Jez. I have been an SPC, an ISPCT, and I'm now currently a Gold SPCT. I was Global Head of Agile at HSBC for 4.5 years and led the SAFe rollout there across the world, really. And I'm now working in various different other organizations.
Right. We also have Arthur from C Prime.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Arthur Białowóz. I'm also SPC. I'm an Agile coach. For a couple of years, I've been working with many companies to helping them to be more agile and to scale Agile mostly from Scaled Agile framework.
Okay. We have Lech from Nordea.
Hi, hello, my name is Lech Babula and I'm from Nordea Bank, working as a SPC, but mainly as a release training engineer and solution training engineer. So I'm combining 2 roles, one doing the transformation, but also working with the teams to deliver the value. So combining the theory also with practice. So that's me.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we have Konrad from Enablers. We're hosting this webinar with all our guests here. If you could say few sentences.
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Konrad. I work as a SPC and also partner at Enablers, where we support organizations from Poland, but also Europe and all over the world in implementing SAFe training around SAFe and helping them to successfully use it.
Okay, so welcome everyone. And we'll have a few themes today. We'll go through. The first theme that we'd like to cover and hear from our panelists is why to start with SAFe and Scaled Agile, and maybe what are the reasons to consider. Maybe Rune, you could start off with that.
Absolutely. Maybe I just want to mention that we also have this Q&A function here. So if you as attendees have questions to ask, please feel free, go into the QA section and add those questions in there. So yeah, reasons to consider SAFe implementation. Interestingly enough, I was just visiting a customer today that was having massive challenges with getting their product and solutions to the market in some kind of timely manner. And quite often that's actually what we see, time to market being a huge driver in many of the lean and agile transformations I see. So when you have SAFe, we usually focus on time to market, better quality, engagement, and productivity. In my opinion, time to market seems to really be the predominant one. And why is that? Well, most companies have an overload of good ideas and an underload of capacity. So just stuffing all this work into your organization through projects or whatever is really tying things down and slowing down your time to market. So that's some of the things we're trying to work against with SAFe, bringing in some of the lean practices. So removing work that we don't need, doesn't align to our strategy, trying to address many of the dependencies we have across departments, teams, etc., and trying to get our leadership to actually prioritize the work. All of this really ties into this whole removing waste from our process so we get a faster time to market. I think that's kind of my overall experience with why people go in and implement SAFe.
So maybe a question further is, if the company is conscious that we have this kind of disbalance between what we want and what we can produce, are there any prerequisites that we could say, oh, we'd like to go into the safe direction? What should happen there? Lech, I feel you have this kind of experience with that part. Maybe you could jump in and share what you think about that.
Yeah, just to follow up what Rune said, it's about this tipping point, why we need to change. And sometimes it's like faster time to market. Sometimes your competition is better there. You mentioned, Michael, about the prerequisites. Prerequisites, you have people, you have processes, you have tools. Maybe it's a matter how you organize that. So it's not about reinventing your organization. It's about using what you have, maybe in a better way, to make sure you deliver value much faster and with a better quality. Having the same people who are, I presume, they are, still committed and willing to support you here. So that's my view.
I fully agree with what you both say, but I also feel that those are situations which are visible from, let's say, business side of things, but there are very often challenges which teams are struggling on day-to-day basis. And here I'm thinking about situations when teams are solving certain problems or impediments while the other teams are fighting with exactly the same reasons, but just on their own, on kind of on the side, or teams get blocked by each other because they are not aware of the dependencies that they have between. So I wonder if anyone observed such problems from sort of inside of the organization.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the starting point is to understand what the problem is, what the problem is that we would like to solve. Is it a systemic problem that you would like to solve with so big framework as a Skate Agile framework is? So yeah, to really understand the problem from my point of view is the starting point, and to connect the dots, the problem and Skate Agile framework, how it will help to resolve it, and to get this understanding from my point of view is the starting point. If it is a systemic for many teams, as you Conrad mentioned, yeah, then probably we should take a higher overview, and then we can take safe as a pill, as a something we can cure it, or heal.
Yeah, that's also worth to add that prerequisite could be the need from the teams, because Conrad, you mentioned that some of the teams may be already doing Agile, and they want and they see the benefits of doing this one, and you have more and more teams willing to do Agile practices, implementing Scrum. But the question will be, how we are going to scale, and there's many frameworks at the market, and which one to choose, which will be better. And one of the examples is Scale Agile, that having a proven pattern of organizing your company and enterprise. Maybe
another additional question. Let's say we go from a perspective top to bottom approach. Why? And maybe someone could give an example of a bottom to top approach. So that maybe you heard of a change that was initiated from the team level and you went safe, or from the top level and went towards safe. Because I think there are like two kind of approaches that might happen.
So if it's of use, I ran the HSBC rollout was purely from the bottom, because there was no way I would get leadership buy-in until I could prove it worked. I could go to them with books and theories and courses and training, and they would sit there going, show me that it works in my organization. So I had to start at the bottom, and it carried on rolling. More teams pulled each other in and said, you need to speak to Jez, we need to get involved with this. And then I realized that the safe implementation roadmap is really good, because I didn't train the leaders, I didn't engage the leaders. And I was really proud of that until 18 months later, that really hurt me and it really got in the way. And I looked at the implementation roadmap and went, oh, it says train the leaders. I didn't do that. So you can get quite a long way bottom up. You can't get all the way bottom up. You have to go top down at some point, in my experience anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've got the same experience. So yeah, we can do things from the very bottom up, but it will take time. Of course, it's an evolutionary change, but it definitely will take time. I mean, sometimes years. So yeah, definitely we should combine two approaches, from top and from the bottom, and to be we can meet in the middle.
But isn't it exactly the way how leadership is supposed to work, right? So we have certain direction, this flag in the sand set by the leadership, and basically teams and people are empowered to do the change within provided environment or constraints, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's something what I personally like a lot.
Yeah, but if you look into the House of Lean, even, the concept as a foundation, you have leadership. If you look in the principles and say, if you still have Lean Agile leadership there. So without leadership support there, it will be doable, but quite hard and harder, as Jess, you mentioned there, to get this buy-in. And then you need to knock out to the doors rather than having those doors open for you, having and be able to transfer organization much faster.
Yeah, simply speaking, implementing SAFe is implementing a change. So implementing a change requires decision. Leadership make decision. So we need them this way or the other.
The only risk you do sometimes get is leadership turn up and say, we're making this change, and no one is taught what the change means. No one really understands it. And as a result, all the words get changed. All the project managers get called scrum masters. All these new words come around the organization, and the practices don't change. So leadership just saying we're doing this isn't enough. People just doing it by themselves isn't enough. Leadership needs to say it, and people need to listen, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you would agree. I believe Michael and we had that experience where we were implementing the change, and it was our sort of, we didn't know much about Scale Agile framework back then. It was roughly 10 years ago, so we kind of uncovered that path on our own. But later on, I realized that this guideline that SAFe gives regarding training everyone is pretty powerful. It might sound scary sometimes, but there are different ways to achieve it. You do not necessarily need to pay for external trainings for entire organization of thousands of people, but bringing everyone to the same page, making sure that they understand the same principles, that they understand the terminology, that they understand why we want to use certain practices, speeds up a lot.
Yes, and actually it saves your life as a coach. From my experience, when there is a lack of knowledge, and I've been asked thousands of questions from many people every time. What is this? How it will happen? What is going to be? What is going to next? Yes. What is planning? What is estimating? All this stuff I've been asked thousands of times. So I'm losing my time. I'm losing their time. So yeah, we need to start with educating everyone before starting this journey. Yeah, to have common language, to have common understanding, and then it's much more easier to proceed.
As we're moving a little bit into like the how to do this, maybe we could switch a little bit to the good practices and maybe the pitfalls that you have observed. Certainly you have seen quite a lot in the last years. As we and Konrad, we started off 10 years ago with the first things we tried. And it's a lot of time. So if you could share, maybe starting with Rune, the pitfalls and failures you think you can avoid doing it after so many experiences, what not to do.
Oh, I mean, that list is so long, but I'll take a few hits on that one. So especially, Jesse already hit on one of them, and the rest of you too. Remember to train your leaders so you get the buy-in. I mean, that's an absolute essential part to do that. Some of the things I've seen that is minimizing this value that you hope to get from a transformation is how you're actually structuring yourself into these agile release trains and teams afterwards. So remember, we're doing a transformation, and if you don't transform the way you organize and the way you work, you will not do anything different, so you'll not get the value. So the pitfalls I've seen, for example, when you're setting up your new agile release trains, copying in your existing departments or the way you organized into SAFe well, then you don't really change anything. You don't change the way dependencies are. So that's usually a big problem with copying in your organizational silos as you do that. Structuring your teams in the good old waterfall world. So the worst examples I've seen is within an Agile release train, we had a team doing the requirements. We had a team doing design. We had a team doing implementation, and we had a team doing test. So in principle, I had this big waterfall Agile release train that was handing over iteration by iteration, sprint by sprint to each other. So of course they didn't improve anything. So you need to rethink your organization when you are creating your Agile release trains. Don't just take what you have today because you won't change anything. That's probably one of my biggest concerns that I see.
I saw, Arthur, you're quite positively thumbs up. If you could shoot your kind of top pitfalls to avoid.
Rune just inspired me. From my point of view, is the biggest pitfall from my experience is not engaging the leaders. So it was I participated in a transformation that this kind of change was just delegated to me and my team, and without leadership, it really goes really hard to implement any change, because without making decisions, you are not doing anything. So it was we've been struggling with implementing the changes to making decisions. So even in the first PI planning, there were no leaders. It was totally not the leading by example to other, let's say, directors, because I was dealing with the board of directors. So what is the example given to other guys? If the board of directors is not present at the first PI planning, the big event for this company. Yeah. So this is a tricky point, and it was a pitfall, really, and definitely we should avoid such situations. Yeah.
So maybe someone could share like a good practice how to get them in the picture, because sometimes I feel we're under pressure. Maybe you have experienced it, that it's just like go and do the stuff with the teams, like just do this stuff and I'll come when it works. But they are part of the picture, as you mentioned. Maybe you could share some tips and tricks, like how do you engage leaders, the consciousness that they are part of the picture. Who'd like to share that, maybe guess?
Yeah, so what I always do is I ask leaders to give me the most broken, chaotic, wrong, troublesome, problematic teams they possibly have, and I say I'll go and work with them and I'll go and fix them for you. First of all, because they're generally quite easy to fix. You don't have to do a lot to get some really good returns. You generally get teams who want to be helped, so they're open to training, they're open to getting involved in this, so you're kind of pushing at an open door already. And then you can go back to the leaders and say, I just fixed this problem for you, because that's fundamentally what leaders want. They're busy people. They haven't got time to be learning loads and loads of intricate theory all the time, certainly not at the start. What they want to see is someone is taking one of my headaches away. And, give me a headache, I'll fix it for you. Then I go back and say, this is what happened. Isn't it great? And normally at that point, they then say, that was really great. Please, can you go and do it over there next? And then you're on to the next one. You're on to the next one. The only thing you have to watch for is you have to keep the trains on the tracks once you've launched them. Because I didn't do this once. I kept on launching so many trains so quickly that the early trains started to go a bit wrong again. And other people looked at them and started copying what they were doing. They started saying, that team's running safe. That team does this thing. So we're going to do this as well. And I was there going, no, that's not part of safe. They're just doing something wrong. So solve problems for leaders to get their buy-in, but at the same time, don't try and solve so many so quickly that actually you're leaving problems behind you as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think it's quite important to have it as the evolutionary change. So once we do not want to start the transformation in an entire organization at once. So having some good examples, little wins, lessons learned from one area is helping a lot to sort of speed up the next areas.
And how about, you mentioned that you try to, sometimes companies tend to just push their current structure way of doing things into the safe approach and then say they're doing safe. How to work with the transition between the existing roles to the new roles. Maybe you could share some good practices around that, because people, they typically just change their title, but sometimes they don't change anything else. And they're just waiting till it's time to go back to the old way when they just get tired with the new way. Maybe you could just share, Lech, if you could jump in here, if you have any thoughts around that.
Yeah, usually when you're thinking about the transformation, there's some people who are going to say, like, raise their hands immediately and say, I'm in with you, you know. So it's easy with them to move into the new ways of working. If there's new titles, how you going to organize your teams. But there's some people who are looking to if it's something for me. And then you are able to ask questions, what you like to do. It's about people's motivation there. Because sometimes there's a lot of people with titles called head of, I don't know, manager, and now you will be a product owner, for example. There's opportunity to be a product owner, and maybe it's not sounds really fancy, but what I figured out when we try to explain to them what you're going to do, what the influence you're going to have, or you are going to build a product, a lot of people said, you know, I'm going to try this one at least. And usually they said, we tried and it's something for me, because there real stuff are happening there. It's because what I figured out when we change and transform into this agile ways of working, using the scale agile for the scaling agile, in the organization, it's more movement. It's more relationship, and people love to be in the teams, even having the different titles here. So it's more showing them opportunities to learn and grow and change the way how they're working previously, rather than working with Excel spreadsheet and maybe some boring clicking. Now they're in the flow of value and having the influence working with the people. So this is one of the approach. Another one that I think we shouldn't be aware of and don't be scared of, that there are some people who are going to say, you know, thank you very much. It's not something that I want to do. It's not something that I want to join. And that's also fine, because maybe there's some opportunities within your organization for them to continue, maybe outside of an organization, and that's also fine, because it's not that everyone will be part of this change. And yeah, that's, I think, the fact also.
Right. So Lech, I really like the way you described that, Rob. I had a really interesting conversation with a BI developer in one of my transformations, and said, you know what? I don't like working this way. I don't want to be in a team. I want to sit by myself. I want to do my own stuff. I just want to do my requirements. Now, the funny thing was that 3 weeks later, he come back to me and said, you know what? I was out looking on the job market. Everybody's running safe. I can't get away from it. So I might as well learn it and stay here. So it took kind of a pragmatic approach to it. But building on that, I see organizations coming in from two different places. They either come in from a place where they've been running waterfall for a long, long time, and they haven't done agile. And if you're in that situation, you require, first of all, you need to respect those people. A role is not just a name. It comes with the training. If you don't train people in the role, how can you expect them to act like it? So that's like the whole training perspective on it. Secondly, and I think that's probably the single most valuable thing I found after training, is to have coaches in there who actually know what they're talking about, who can, after the training on those daily activities, whether it's in the team or it's in the agile release training or it's with the leadership, who can help and coach and guide these people on the right track. And as you're launching more agile release trainings, they can move on to them, but always keeping an eye out. So this coaching thing, this coaching opportunities, we can't let that slip, because that's really important to have somebody experienced in there. On the other hand, coming in, if you've been working agile, but maybe on a team level before, there's some different challenges. Maybe you don't need to train everybody in how to do a daily stand-up. People already know how to do that. But is this how we work scaled? How do we work together? How do we have some kind of common theme, commonality between us, common vocabulary as we're working, which will also require some training and coaching, but it's a different kind of coaching to getting these already experienced teams to work just in a slightly different way.
I think the word coaching now is really important, because the word coach gets misused in the agile community just to mean trainer or consultant or something. But coaching is about understanding people and their reactions and how they're feeling and what's going on for them. And very often running a SAFe implementation is as much of an art as it is a science, knowing where to push and say, let's challenge this thing, where just to step back and say, this is making people incredibly uncomfortable. And right now, let's just leave that for a bit and focus on something else. Really being live to the human beings that you're working with and understanding what's going on for them and their motivations and their drivers and their context and all the things they're not saying, all the things they're not telling you, and then using that to kind of craft and shape how you run the implementation. I sometimes see SAFe as like a beautiful, smooth blanket, and an organization is a stony ground, and you lay the blanket onto the stony ground and it will have lumps and bumps in it. And those are things you then have to work with and almost build a backlog of, this is what we'll work on first. These things will come to you later.
Yeah, but that's an analogy, Jess, about this blanket there, that to cover. On the other hand, the items that we usually saying to leaders that Agile will this Agile SAFe and other methodologies, this Agile methodologies, let's call it that way, will uncover all your pitfalls really quickly. So usually you are right at the beginning because you're not able to deliver a code, you don't have a requirements, you don't have acceptance criteria, you don't have continuous integration pipeline, and you're not able to deliver any value, anything to production in the first 1 or 2 months. And everything is red, and leadership is saying, oh, you're crazy, Agile is not working. And we said, just bear with us. And then you're going to be yellow and like green in their terminology, but then you will becoming green and green for a longer period of time, and you're able to deliver more and more. So it's like reversing this view that before was that they were waiting for red at the end of the project. Now they have red at the beginning of this journey, but then there's constantly like green, and we are delivering in the predictable manner.
There's one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's such a common thing that people kind of say everything was great until Agile turned up, and now Agile's turned up, everything's bad. It's not. It's exactly the same. You can just see all your problems now. But sometimes the framework becomes the scapegoat. Blame the framework, and go back to hiding things again. That can be a thing. Sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one more area which might tie into old habits. I often hear questions regarding potential tweaks or changes of the guidelines provided by framework. Often there are people learning about innovation and planning iteration, for example, and they decide that we cannot afford having everyone working 2 weeks innovation and planning iteration, or we cannot invest everyone attending 2 days PI planning. And I think it's very important to understand if you decide to tweak anything, you need to understand the reasons behind or potential circumstances which can be caused by those tweaks. So I think there is nothing wrong in being pragmatic, but let's not change things only because we feel we've been not doing that before, so it's not needed.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned a really important point. It's about the perception and the facts sometimes when we are working and convincing people or sharing the benefits of changes there. You mentioned about the PA planning. I remember constantly the questions about the leadership. Oh, 100 people for 2 days in the hotel. It's so expensive. It's so expensive. And I said, guys, I'm going to do a calculation because I believe it's not expensive. And you know what? We did a calculation and we figured out that this 2 days of 100 people being in a hotel and preparing the plan that they're committed to deliver, and they're delivered in the next 10, 12 weeks, cost less than % of the whole art. And we brought up those numbers, and the leadership said, no, it shouldn't be true. It's 100 people in hotel for 2 days. I said, yes, this is the calculation for you. And this is the cost of the Agile release train. So sometimes the facts are friendly. And I think when we're bringing those items to the table, it's an eye-opener for the leadership. And then we are buying more support for the further steps then and improvements.
So you certainly had so many experiences, like good and bad. So who should be really the driver of the success? Who should be driving it? Is there a person you say immediately you join an organization, or you join the organization and you are the driver? Who is it? Because there are sometimes very different expectations from the customer, from the teams, from you perhaps. Maybe Rune, you could jump in and share how should it go?
So you mean the driver of the transformation itself?
Yes. Should there be one person? Should it be you if you're the consultant, or how to do this?
Well, I'll tell you my best story, which was also my first safe transformation. The driver of that one was a newly hired CIO stepping into the room of, I think we called it the process group at the time, saying, we're going to do scaled agile. We're going to look into the different frameworks. I'm going to be your product manager, and you're going to make the decisions. It was like complete silence in the room. So, okay. So a little bit back to the leadership and the engagement with the senior leadership. The driver should be whoever wants these business results. Those are the people with the why. Of course, there's us doing the work on the ground, setting up the arts, coaching the people, doing the training. But those who really want the results should be the one ultimately driving, or at least be some very serious stakeholders who can also communicate to the rest of the senior leadership, whether it's the C-level or just very senior leadership. What are the challenges we're facing? How can we remove organizational impediments for this transformation? Because most people that's actually doing the work, they can't do it. They don't have this responsibility to change the system we're in. So the further up you can get some kind of senior driver, the better. The rest of us will do our best to tag along. So that was my success story, and we actually got the entire organization into, well, I think it was 4 agile release trains working together within a year. All of it working great, good investments. He knew what he needed to be done. So that's where you need to go, high up as possible.
I suppose we love like these successes. I'm wondering, but we sometimes have like super challenges, and maybe some of you would like to share. So what didn't really go well in the like surprises? You thought it's going well, and what happened? I'd love to hear about that.
I think there is one kind of condition to what Rune just said. It is very true as long as it's done in an aligned way with the leadership principles. I have seen quite a similar example, but in a way that one person basically used the finger method and said, you do this, you do that, you become this person. Here's the Excel sheet with thousands of rows where each row is one person. Now we'll reshuffle everyone, create a team, new teams based on Excel functions and macros, and that will be our new organization. So I never saw this one working.
Sorry. No, so I know I was lucky. I've seen worse. I've seen, exactly that situation where you get into a transformation of a senior leader driving the transformation, but for the wrong reasons, and driving the wrong mentality, and sometimes getting in there. They want to do agile, they want to do safe, because some of the other directors they're talking to did the same thing in their company, and they want the same thing. So these are the kind of the things we need to understand and weed out. But I mean, sometimes you get the driver you get, and you'll need to work with them for better or for worse. Whether that requires a lot of coaching upwards to leadership or not, that's some of the challenges you need to face.
But I think, just to follow up, Rune, what you said, you mentioned about required a lot of coaching. Sometimes it's required a lot of courage. It's also start with C, because sometimes it's required to ask those provocative questions. What is your motivation of doing this? Or asking, I really want to hurt yourself in implementing SAFe and uncover everything that is not working in the 3 months. Now, do you want to do this to yourself and have this honest conversation with the leadership? Because without this, you will end up with this like false positive feasibility, as we were calling during the training sometimes, that everyone's saying, let's do agile, let's do SAFe, and you think that everything is going well because everyone's saying go, go, go. But when you dig deeper and check the motivations, then you figured out that maybe it's not something that you should do now, or you should do in a different way.
I quite like the idea of the teams being part of the driver as well, because one thing you notice very often with senior leadership is senior leadership changes every 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. They're ambitious people, they move around jobs, they want to get promoted. And when the new leadership turns up, very often they turn up and say, everything the old leadership did was wrong, I'm going to do something new. So SAFE gets wrapped up in that. You know, that guy did SAFE and he's gone now and I'm not doing that. If you can get the teams to own and drive this as well, then what I have had occasionally is senior leaders turn up and do that, and the teams have just said, no, we're doing SAFE. This isn't a debate. This isn't a negotiation. If you want chaos, we can go back to the old way of working. If you want things to work, this is how we work. And often then the leaders go, okay, I'll find something else to change. And they go off and they change something else instead because they're new and they have to make a change. So yeah, getting the teams to drive it and really own it is again a difficult thing, because you have to kind of deliver results through the teams without it being noticed that it's you doing it. It feels like they're doing it. They own it. It's their success. And at the end of the day, you leave and no one remembers your name. And that's exactly how it should be. So.
Yeah. And just to add, just to what you're saying, sometimes there is a situation that you're coming there and asking the questions that help them to be better. Because I had a situation when I joined a program as a RTE, and you know, on the pages, everything was in SAFE. They had even PM planning. But when I asked, okay, so how long you are a trainer? And they said 1.5 years. I said, good. So you are doing the coding? Yes. How often you deliver to production? None. I said, so you are coding for the 1.5 years and nothing is on production? No. So what you're doing? Oh yeah, we're coding. And have you checked if it's working on production to the real user? No. Okay. I said, so and you're doing SAFE and Agile? Yes, we have the sprints, planning and everything. I said, are you delivering any value? No. Okay. So it's about also uncovering and asking those questions to help them realize why we are here. And our role is to deliver value in predictable manner. So in this case, in 2 months, we change the way how we deliver, and now there are weekly releases to production. It was like a mind shift for them. Like, are we able to deliver on a weekly basis? And we did that. So they are now really not change the intake process and even the working way, but the delivery change there. So our role here is to be there as a coaches and help them to uncover those areas for improvement and really do Agile or do implement scale Agile and follow those principles that we are also sharing with them.
So when you see that things are working, you might get the first benefits. You mentioned that you fix the biggest pain points. Like if it's the worst place, it can only get better. So you fix it, and then management might get the buy-in. They might get excited. If you're lucky, they're on board with you. And then they say, okay, let's just accelerate. So when can we get everyone on board? Now, I like it with the first team. Now I want all the other kind of 200, 300, 500 people doing this. It looks good. And the question is like, what is the max speed? How fast can you really launch? What are your experiences? Because in the early days, it was very conceptual, very new to organizations like 10 years ago. It was like, oh, we're launching trains. And I suppose some of you have launched quite a couple of trains in the organizations you've worked. And maybe you could share what is the pace that is reasonable and where maybe you went too fast, and how to start with accelerating when you see the first benefits. Maybe Lech, you could share your experience.
You know, I remember in Nordea when we started a journey 5, maybe 6 years ago, there's 1 or 2 trains. At the moment, we have 80, maybe even up to 100 trains. I don't even able to count. The challenge was this: figure it out that you need to do. So there is no math or algorithm like a train plus 1 plus 2 every quarter or something like this. You need to, I think, figure it out the ability of organization to embrace that change. And also having people in the organization to support that change, that you are able to move in the right direction. Jess, you mentioned about this, that if you have more trains starting and the previous one are not take care properly, then it means that you are able to fall because the early ones are not doing the right stuff here. So you need to, first of all, reach out to some level of maturity. And when you have the level of maturity, you're able to ask those people who know how to do this in practice to share that knowledge. So maybe move them into the new train. So they're becoming like this evangelist or learning others to do that. You need to build a coalition of the people, having place in place, because one of the challenges in big organization, if you're scaling too fast, you end up with a situation when you have a trains, but you are not have a proper portfolio management, and then you struggle to know what to do next or what's the priority here. So there is no general rule, but you need to observe a few factors, as I mentioned: maturity of the organization, ability to embrace backlog readiness at the portfolio level, a number of people who knows how to do properly there. Yep.
Well, I got an add-on to that one because I've seen something interesting happening talking to a really large medical company that launched a couple of trains. Huge success, lots of results. And the LACE, they were like kind of LACE, so that's the Lean Agile Center of Excellence taking care of the transformation. They were starting to prioritize the new arts that are spinning up, but the business was so happy for the results that they didn't want to wait. So what did they do? They started spinning up Agile release trains by themselves. They didn't have the people to do it. You know, just put some people in there, start working on that thing, and everything is going to be fine. So suddenly we had this dual track transformation going because the LACE responsible for starting it up didn't have the capacity, and the business didn't want to wait. So I think you really need to consider what kind of discussions do we want to have with the business when they want to scale, when they see the benefits. It's like, okay, if you want to scale, we need some more help to do it, because otherwise you risk coming into this situation where you have a lot of inexperienced launches and you'll need to go back and fix it afterwards. So that's sometimes the problems of success.
Okay, anyone would like to add something to this?
On the original question, I know I can launch a train in about 10 days. I once walked past a meeting room in London. Someone grabbed me, pulled me into the meeting. 5 days later, I was stood in India in front of 100 people I'd never met before. And a couple of days after that, first PR planning train launched. I can do it that quickly. I'd rather not. The thing I always go back to, though, is say to people, one of the core values of SAFe is built-in quality. And that's not just built-in quality with the code or the products or whatever you're delivering. It's built-in quality in your transformation too. You have to have high quality standards as you roll this out. So it should be as fast as it can be, but not so fast that you start to drop your quality. It's the reason I ended up becoming an ISPCT, started down that journey in the first place, because I didn't scale. I was the only SPC. I was the only person that could train people. I needed more trainers, and the way to do that was to train my own trainers. But I started focusing then on pairing with trainers, making sure that the messages going out from the other trainers were quality, and they weren't going, SAFe says this, but don't worry about it, it's fine, we don't have to do that bit. You know, making sure that was done, and starting to look at the bigger picture and how you orchestrate that, rather than just, I'm an SPC and I launch trains and that's all I do, because you don't scale. You have to try and find a way to scale yourself if you want to scale.
Maybe additional question, could you share some ways that you could measure that the art you just launched is stable? Is there any way you have tried to say that objectively, I see that there is a new habit? It's not just kind of a conscious way of, yes, I know I have to do, but I know I do this because I know it's a habit. This is how, is there things you have measured you could say, it's good enough, we can move to the next?
Mm-hmm. I think, if I may, just to, there are like, of course, you're able to use the metrics that, you know, you go to Scale Agile page, you have a lot of metrics that you're able to use. In my case, first of all, is predictability. Because if you see that they're planning and they're delivering and they're happy with this and they're delivering the right stuff, you see that it's working. But another one is about people, because you also need to feel that there is a proper mood, you know, the energy level. And in the face-to-face PA planning, I'm calling this sound of bees. If you are in the center of the room and you have 100 people in the room, and you're standing there and you hear that people are talking with each other, like means they're working, and they're working in a proper way. So you know that there is a relationship, there is a work, there is no silence, there's close collaboration, and they have a good plan that are able to commit to. And then if are going to deliver, so you have a predictability and a good mood at the end. I think that's something I see that they're somehow in the good hands. And let's move on to another one. I know maybe they're not very science method, but this is something that I also observing here.
I'm so glad you said that, because I'm terrible at objective metrics, but things like that, things like, does it sound like people are talking? Are you overhearing people saying, hang on a minute, I didn't know that? That's a really, that's the really useful thing. When you try and hold a scrum of scrums, do you struggle to get people to come because they're busy talking to each other? In which case you go, fantastic, we do have to have a scrum of scrums, but I'm really glad that you don't want to have one because you're so busy talking to other teams. All these kind of intangible metrics are just, you get a sense of the human beings you're working with, and is this something they're engaged in and they want to do.
I think
But at the team level, maybe
go ahead,
Rune, you
Michael.
could jump in, the team level or the train level, like, because you have to somehow find a way to explain to management, wait another month, right? Just wait another month.
Guys, it's very simple. Teams and arts need to deliver. Basically, this is it. If they don't deliver, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, So when my business is satisfied with what my art is delivering, it's okay. They need to deliver on time, and that's it. Basically, that's it. So it's somehow this predictability measure. But I don't need to wait all the PI for the predictability measure. I need to deliver more frequently, much more frequently, with what business needs. So that's it. Nothing fancy.
From my experience, the right time would be when the coach becomes kind of obsolete. So usually, initially for the first PI, there is a lot of support, questions, hints that the teams need to make sure that they prepare well, do PI planning well, and then do, let's say, all the actions after the PI planning in the right way. After second, third PI, usually they are becoming fully or they're becoming mature simply and know all the routines and steps. And probably that would be the indicator that I would look at.
Right. Shall we take that question? At least one question from one of the participants before we close up. I think that would be fair.
Yes, we should slowly move to the question part and then the wrap up. So we have a question from Tomasz. Transforming is also about innovating. Have you ever failed convincing leaders, business owners that innovation planning iteration has to be in place and respected? Any experience in that matter?
Of course.
Of course, yes. So it's not hard to convince them at the beginning of the PI, but at the end of PI, it's really hard. So I'm struggling all the time to keep this really innovative. My personal success is if I can only find a one day that is dedicated for innovation. I'm lucky. I'm happy. One day. So for CI/CD tools, any kind of hackathon, just one day in this very short iteration, I'm happy with that. Because it's always like to keep this iteration as a buffer. It happens all the time. It's a buffer for all the leftovers. So if I only can get one day, I'm happy, and it's my personal success for innovation, just for innovation.
Yeah.
We also use if I'm able to chip in, that we also use sometimes a trick, saying, you know what, there's 2 weeks at the end. How about if you don't to have a IP sprint? Of course, we need to do a planning. So they are usually okay with the planning.
Yeah, because it's planned.
Yeah, fine. I said, how about doing this? Because innovation are not happening on Thursday at the morning. You're going to innovate. Usually, innovation are happening during the time. So we distribute this capacity over the whole PI, saying 10% of the capacity of each of the team during PI are going for the innovation. So we replace 2 weeks by constant innovation in the teams, because if you're doing test automation or continuous integration, usually you're doing on a daily basis. You check something, you implement, you check, you coming back. So again, maybe that's also can help when convincing the leaders to change this IP script.
Right.
Yeah, and like, did it really work? Yeah, this 10% for each sprint. Did it really work? Yeah.
Yes, it worked because, for example, one team when I was in one art was able to implement new framework for test automation.
Okay.
Great.
And then increase, the level of automation from, I think, 20% to like 60% in one PI.
Uh-huh.
And that saves a lot of manual work. And even testers said, for us, it's better to do on the regular basis, like an hour or two per day, rather than spend 2 or 3 days in a row, because it's for them, it was more interesting for that one.
Okay, so, yeah.
I tried something else because I had this challenge with leaders, directors. Is this worth it? Aren't they just going and playing around for 2 weeks, doing nothing but nonsense? And then I tried something. I usually let the teams decide what they want to innovate on. But for one PI, I actually turned that around. So I asked that leader, what is the biggest problem you have right now? What is the biggest challenge you can't solve? Well, yeah, he had some specific challenge to some development. And said, okay, you know what? We're going to take the entire art and we're going to focus on this problem in the IP iteration. Normally, he couldn't get the priority to get this in, but then we tried it. So the whole art worked together on his problem in that IP, and they solved it. At least they made something that was tangible to use. He got his problem solved. The people got to solve a business problem, which is really what we want to innovate about, solving the big business problems that we don't normally be able to do. He was so thrilled that he was actually moving forward. He was the most pro the IP iteration, as long as you could get some of his good ideas or the other business owners' ideas in there. So that was really a change for me to see, well, bring the business in and let them present some of the problems to solve. And then let's see if somebody can do it.
We have to slowly close up, and I'd like to close with a question and give each of you about a minute, up to a minute to answer. 30 seconds a minute. So if I'm a change agent or I'm a leader and I want to move forward, I'm quite convinced this is I'd like to try it out. What should I do? What are the steps you think I should do to successfully implement Agile and Lean with SAFe? Maybe Runa, you could start off.
You need your why. You need that thing that's going to change you from the status quo you have today. So are you too slow? Focus on that. Is your quality too low? Focus on that. But you need to have the why, not only for yourself, but to drive this motivation and engagement in the organization. That's absolutely crucial. If you can't tell why people should transform, they're not going to do it. They need motivation. The business needs motivation to do that. So this why, in the first place, that's your starting point. Don't move further until you have that.
Totally agree. And I will give you the second step. The second step is educate. Educate everyone. That's it. You can give the third one.
The tip number 3.
I can go on that one if you want. Experiment. Find somewhere to try this out. Try it out. Try and stay under the radar. Don't draw lots of attention to yourself, because the more people look at it, the more embarrassing it will be if it goes wrong. And the more pressure you have. Try an experiment, fix a problem, go back to the leaders and say, we did this and it fixed the problem for you. Where do you want me to go next? And they will point you somewhere else. I'm certain of it.
Be courageous. I would add that be courageous in tackle your problems and uncover your problems, bringing facts, bringing people to this to resolve those items, because the way how you change, you are dealing with the problems is also influence on the pace and the value you're going to get at the end. So being courageous, being faster, and involving the people will help you with this one.
Then I would have 2. I'll keep it short. First is measure. I think that's absolutely fundamental in any area of your life which you want to improve on. You first need to know where you are and what you want to improve. And also that would help you to understand if this is the right thing, which is actually helping you. And secondly, model somebody who went through that, or get some professional help, like no matter if it's sports, again, any other area of your life, get somebody who went that path and can help you to avoid the most basic pitfalls.
Right. I must say that the saying that a a conversation with someone who is wiser is much more worth sometimes than a lifetime of reading books. And I think this hour and these 5 points sum up, I think, quite a long time of your contribution to helping organizations. I'll note them down and put them in front of me on my desk. Hope they helped quite a lot of people. So thank you again, everyone, for joining our panelists. If you have any questions after the webinar, please feel free to reach out to Konrad or me, or on LinkedIn. I suppose most of us are available. We'd love to connect with you. And if you have any challenges in your organization, we'd also love to reach out and see how we could help you move forward, go safe, and be more agile in your organization. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Yeah, stay safe.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks for great moderation, Michael.
Thank you. See you guys.